Welcome, everyone, one and all, to the NECC Nationals 2024. We've got the grand finals for what you find folks at home, and it is the Emergence Division that we are taking a look at. My name is Pulsable. I'm joined by two tryhard Ray. We got quite a series on our hands tonight, don't we, Ray?
Yeah, we have the best of the best coming out of the Emergence Division. We have Wartburg College going up against Robert Morris University Academy Red. And I know we don't have the bracket available for you guys, but I want to kind of paint you guys a picture of how these teams got here. So Robert Morris actually had an incredibly hard matchup in their first round of this bracket. They went up against Center College, who's one of the main stands in the Emergence Division, and they ended up getting it in a map 5 banger 3-2. And ever since then, they've been able to coast a little bit, 3-1, 3-0, and they find themselves here today. It was a little bit different for the side of Wartburg. They started out in a situation where they 3-0'd, then they were in back-to-back map 5s. So both teams battle tested, but Wartburg has had the pressure on them in the more recent times.
And Wartburg comes in as our #1 seed as well. So for them to have back-to-back nail-biting matches to get to the grand finals just shows how competitive the Emergence Division has been thus far. I mean, let's look at Wartburg College. They're our #1 seed. They're the top dogs coming into today. They did so well in the regular season. I'm excited to see what they have to show us in our first 2-4 grand finals.
Yeah, it is going to be an absolutely insane matchup, but highlighting these players, we have French Rob, Blue,
Blurgent Urge, and Pickled Poet on the same team. This team is made to trip up casters while trying to say these names.
Could not agree with you more. Then we got Biggest O Falls and D Drake. So
is that Biggest O Falls or is it Biggest of Owls? I think it's Biggest of Owls. Or biggest of Owls.
ALs? Okay.
Who knows? I'm gonna go with Owls. I think that sounds pretty good. All right. I mean, I'm excited to see what the Wartburg Knights have in store for us. Like we said, this is our #1 seed coming in here, so I'm interested to see what they're going to have in store for us, especially on this most recent patch that we just had yesterday. Arisa less in favor now, right? So gonna have to see what Pickled Poet has in the pocket for their tank role.
Yeah, that's the thing. So let's go ahead and pull up the roster for Robert Morris University Academy Red. We have Carter Cart, Echo, Maruki, Kindling, and Nocturna. And just, highlighting what you're talking about with this tank role, with the Arisa changes coming in, this was extremely recent. This was yesterday. So they've really only had, yesterday and maybe some warm-up scrims today to try and, figure out some other comps if they feel like the Arisa isn't strong. But I'm really curious what these teams are going to elect to do with a last-minute update coming in like this.
Yeah, I mean, it's all up in the air, right? We haven't seen any pro play or anything like that on this most recent patch as of yet. So it's a question of, do you think that the Arisa nerfs were strong enough to where she's unrunnable? And what do you have in substitute? Now, of course, it wasn't just like a solo Arisa meta beforehand either. So Robert Morris and Wartburg, I'm pretty sure, are going to have something in the tank. But I'm interested to see what sort of divisions in terms of agreements and compositions and strategies we might see from our two top teams in the Emergent Division.
Yeah, it is going to be quite a match. And as we mentioned earlier, this is a grand finals, so it will be a first to 4. And with how well and how battle tested these teams have been, I think we could be in for a banger tonight. But that's the good thing about these first to 4s. Sometimes, dropping the first map or two, it's not as detrimental because you have a lot more maps to work with to get back in the series.
Yeah, absolutely. But it is a long series. You got to have the energy for it, right? You can't find yourself fatigued. We're going to start off on Control. Antarctic Peninsula is the selection. I believe that is a selection made by, Wartburg College as well. Our #1 seed, of course, they get to pick the first map, and then we go to Escort, Flashpoint Push, eventually Hybrid, and we'll see what happens after the first 4 or 5 maps of our series and how much we get to go. I'm hoping for 7. I know you're hoping for 7, Ray, but first things first, let's head down south. Let's get into the Antarctic Peninsula.
Which I think is very interesting. recently, you know, in NECC specifically, with these map picks coming into playoffs that we've been in for these last few weeks, Antarctic has not been one of those maps teams have been selecting. We've seen a lot of Nepal, the occasional Oasis, Lijiang Tower, and the sorts, but Antarctic's new. So I'm really curious what Wartburg is going to want to play compositional wise coming in this map, because thinking about the sub maps, when it comes to labs and when it comes to Icebreaker, I think those ones are a little bit more clear. They tend to be a little bit more brawly, but everything opens up when you get to sub level.
Yeah, I mean, when I think of Antarctic Peninsula, I certainly think of Brawl, right? I think about the months and months last year where it was Reinhardt's and Ramatras running at each other on Antarctic Peninsula. Yeah. And have heard some whisperings that a lot of teams now with Orisa kind of hitting the dirt, that Ramatra comes back into favor for a lot of players. You know, if you're not running Orisa, that means you're not as worried about, you know, the javelin spears disrupting your nemesis form, about you getting kited through it either. So that does open up a lot of rush possibilities.
Yeah, and I feel like when you were matching up in the Ramatra versus the Orisa was just so tanky, and getting that fortified and that javelin spin constantly, it was just extremely hard to focus that down. And the CC she brought with the javelin spin and throw. So now you're in a situation where you don't have to worry about that anymore. So it's likely we're going to get those Ramatras v Ramatras. But one thing I have noticed when it comes to the DPS that you play along with it, as we're kind of seeing right now a little bit that I wanted to highlight, is when you played the Ramatra or the Orisa, we've seen a lot of Sojourn, but one interesting adaptation we've seen is people pulling out the Cowboy, a little bit of Cassidy coming out from Blurgent Turge.
I like the Cassidy, especially alongside the Ramatra that Pickled Poet is already picking up, because that is like that mid-range, that brawl, right? You already know that Wartburg are going to want to get into your face, but they don't have a Lucio to do so either. So I'm wondering what the pace is going to look like here from Wartburg. We're out into the map, folks. Antarctic Peninsula, our grand finals for the NECC Nationals Emergent Division is underway.
Yeah, and Orisa still coming out for Robert Morris. Very perplexing. We'll have to see how it matches up going into this Ramatra. We'll get our answers for our questions at the beginning.
Right now, both the teams just looking at each other. Interesting pathing from Wartburg College. They don't seem to want to contend with this high ground immediately. Instead, waiting for the objective to open up, trying to force Robert Morris into them. Ooh, that's already a lot of damage, and goodbye to the biggest of alls. Going to be falling first. And now the push in from Robert Morris. I mean, they get the point freely, and Wartburg are unable to really contest them at all. That was just a really nice opening pick.
Yeah, Carter Cart getting a lot of that opening damage down onto biggest of owls. Basically forced them to have to use the nade selfishly on themselves, but the follow-up damage was there, because that's going to be the issue if you are Maruki on this Orisa, is having to worry about these anti-nades coming in and disrupting everything you're trying to do, especially with the nerfs that came in. That anti-nade's going to be that much more potent coming into this next fight.
Still baffled by the decision of Wartburg College to not run a Lucio. You'd think you want to try and run over some of the squishies on the enemy side. Playing at mid, actually long range, seems risky when there is a Sojourn and you're just waiting for your supports to get picked. Wartburg up in their faces now, but even nerf that are end with. We do have the Ant Matrix at the ready now from Drake. Pulse Bomb goes wide from Echo, so I'm sensing an opportunity for Wartburg College, but they got to find the angle. Oh my word, great immortality field, but Wartburg is still so low across the board. They need to figure out how to get rid of Maruki here and now, and I think with a Kitsune Rush on the objective, that's just not going to be very doable in the short term. Nocturna, yeah, I mean, was low for a moment, but no way to follow that up. And Pickled Poet will be taken down, and Wartburg are only going to have one more chance to get in here.
Yeah, I think the troubles you're talking about coming from Wartburg are still stemming from that Lucio problem. Robert Morris just has the ability to rotate that much easier because they have the speed boost available to them, and Ramatra is just a slow-moving tank. Lucio's it feels like Ramatra is very similar to Reinhardt. Like, it thrives with the Lucio, being able to use that speed boost to get on top of targets.
I mean, a lot of ults here for Wartburg. If there was ever a time they were going to be able to do something, it'd be now. Nano Annihilation, a classic combination, but a sound beat. Blade, much to Robert Morris's elation. Yeah, they're happy to just soak up all that damage. That's 2 ults for 1. Robert Morris completely abandoning the objective, though, and Echo left out to dry.
Yeah, going to be extremely well played. It's going to force Robert Morris to have to back out and but it's a long road ahead for Wartburg. They do have a lot of ultimates to work with here, but they have no defensive capabilities, and Carter Cart could just end this all right now with this overclock.
A really aggressive Amp Matrix too, especially considering Robert Morris weren't really in a punishable position. Doesn't really buy time. Echo's only really now getting back from the respawn. And that overclock combined with this high ground, I mean, already so nasty, the rail shot, forcing Biggest of Owls once again to biotic grenade at their own feet. Not ideal, and I mean, this photon barrier is hardly going to do anything except force Robert Morris to take the fight. It doesn't stop the overclock once it decides to land, and this is aggression from Robert Morris. They're just pushing straight in their face, and the Deadeye is stomped into the dirt. Overclock might not even be necessary here. Carter's just gonna save it for the next round. Doesn't need it to take the point. Robert Morris flipped this back, and with 99 already on the board, this is for sure the first round going their way.
Yeah, I think that was just a story of odd times to ult across the board. As you mentioned, that extremely aggressive Ant Matrix, but also that High Noon. They had the leverage up on that little platform up there to High Noon from a little bit more of a high ground vantage point, but ended up dropping down and High Nooning amidst a Kitsune Rush. Very, very strange. It just felt like Robert Morris had the aggression and the upper hand when it came to using those ults in better positions time and time again.
An odd position to just take in general as well, right? Most teams are going to favor the high ground that Robert Morris was rotating through over and over again. So surprising that Wartburg were willing to just cede that entirely when Robert Morris came back to the objective. Not the end of the world, though. Could have just been a one sub-map issue. Maybe Wartburg weren't comfortable with that comp there. I mean, they're already swapping their tank back to the Orisa. Oh, man. The nerf's not working up. Is this our lives?
I guess we're only time will tell as the series progresses, but pulling out the Bastion coming onto this next up is very interesting. With the cooldown reduction coming into the Orisa, if you play this turret configuration mode correctly, it can throw a lot of damage onto the opposing Orisa.
I mean, if nothing else, Orisa is more tricky to have the same sort of long-lasting survivability that she had before. I mean, it's still pretty good. Fortify and Javelin Spin are still good abilities. And Pickle Poet is playing in a pretty passive position, actually. I'm a little bit surprised. Now, finally, a Javelin into Maruki, but there is the follow-up damage. We need to see something, an opening. Whoa, my word. Just barely, French Rob is able to survive, but no, Biggest of All does pop out. It is a trade, but I'd take a support for a DPS any day if I'm Robert Morris, although that being said, they're going to need their own supports to pick up the pace. Here comes the Bastion right on top of them, and Wartburg eventually are able to wear down Robert Morris.
Yeah, and that's the power of getting that timing on that tank configuration just perfect and being able to unload all that damage down onto the backs of Robert Morris. Very well played from Blurgin Turge in that fight. I mean, the big question is, we saw early in that fight that Carter Cart once again was able to take down Biggest of Owls. So if they can continue to find these picks, it's going to be rough for Wartburg to keep themselves alive in these fights. But running the Ana Baptiste, even if you lose one support, you still have a lot of healing available.
Nice Ant Matrix 2. Those are the windows I was looking for on the first round. Nice work getting Robert Morris on their approach. That buys you so much time, and it's such a cheap ult too, Ray. I mean, they're going to have that one back. Lickety-split.
I couldn't agree with you more. Just beautiful. We talked about how they were way too aggressive last round. That time it was just placed perfectly in rotation and was able to get full advantage. If you're Robert Morris, however, you've been building this war chest of ultimates coming to this next fight, and I think it's time for them to unload it.
No shortage of tools on Wartburg's side either. So it's a question of Robert Morris, how do you begin? Low ground Kitsune Rush just completely juggled out. Pickle Poet may be taking too much damage for that. Oh, but his DPS jumps down and saves the day. French Rob lopping off heads. Good for 3. Nicely done. This is the Wartburg we expected to see.
Couldn't agree with you more. They have found their mojo, and they are taking full advantage of these ultimates and just getting great value. I'd say the only thing you're okay with if you're Robert Morris is essentially you traded a Kitsune Rush for the Nano and the Overclock, because you'll get that pulse bomb back very quickly as they're already re-engaging.
Sound barrier here has to be huge. Dropping it just to avoid any sort of collateral damage from the artillery. Now an overclock traded back. Carter Cart, nice work there. Gets rid of the enemy Sojourn, and a flip does come through. I mean, a lot of work here to do with Robert Morris, and they're pretty far from ults.
I do think if you're Wartburg, you're feeling pretty good because you get this into essentially one fight territory. So Robert Morris has to rely heavily on either a pick early in this fight and looking at Carter Cart for that, or to get a big pulse bomb that Echo's about to come back on. But Drake has this Amp Matrix once again, and as long as they place it correctly like they did the first time, it's going to get immense value.
I mean, Maruki is pretty bold peeking that far from the corner when the Amp Matrix is online. But Drake, you can see, not completely convinced on where he wants to throw it. Now getting some presence over the point, and oh, they force him back into the waiting Bastion. That's a tricky play. Blurgin Turd, rather, doing a good job there, but actually stays too long on the flank. The flip does come through, but it's all getting very dicey. This pulse bomb has to be huge. Oh, and it goes straight into the wall. No luck. Wartburg College, you're going to send us to a third round of control.
Yeah, initially, until we got that nice POV, shoutouts to Carol for that, I was like, oh, I don't know about that Amp Matrix. And then we just see it. Bastion's like, ha, 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 we got you now, and is able to just clean up. So all things considered, Wartburg coming through on the second map with some nice, well-laid ultimates and some nice plans and adjustments made to combat this Robert Morris squad.
Now we head to the final sub-map of Antarctic Peninsula, and I think this is the one that plays the most drastically different, in my opinion. I mean, that high ground in the middle and surrounding the objective can lean towards dives, but, like, do you opt into it? Diving into an Orisa composition, even with the nerfs, is not a fun task, so no surprises. We actually see no adjustment for Robert Morris, and the only change for Wartburg is they're ditching the Bastion and instead have a Mei.
I mean, I think it could work. The Bastion did get a lot of value, but if you get some good Mei walls and some isolation onto Maruki, force out those cooldowns early, you give yourself a nice early advantage in these team fights.
I mean, pretty tricky to hit those, though, especially at the range Wartburg currently find themselves out. And Robert Morris have, for the most part, gotten away from any choke points where they could be sequestered away from each other. First presence on the point goes to RMU. Echo pretty low, needs some assistance, but does dive back to the supports eventually. Oh, Indling not so lucky, however, and a nice little spear. That immortality field is not going to last long enough, I fear. Yeah, Maruki hits the dust, and there's not even a cap for RMU. Instead, they're just going to fall here. Oh, okay. I mean, Carter's trying, but there's no way that you can stick on point right now. Yeah.
No, absolutely no way. So that's going to be the issue for the side of Robert Morris. You either have to use Carter Cart or Echo, but you have to place pressure onto Biggest of Owls. You cannot allow them to hang back on this high ground and just heal from a distance. They're just going to get immense value throwing nades, you know, shooting their teammates. You have to find a way to put pressure on them.
Tricky to even approach, truthfully. I mean, French Rob is waiting with overclock. I mean, that was, oof, Pickle Poet going really far forward there. I'm shocked we didn't see the Mei wall actually come out from Blurgin Turd. Right there, too. Just Biggest of Owls gets dunked on as well. The tanks abandon the critical spot, and French Rob's not able to do enough to get back at that. Pretty slow, non-committal fight for Wartburg. They're just going to get walked down.
Yeah, neither team committed anything, to be honest. I mean, unfortunately, you kind of left your Ana hanging. Carter Cart was then able to find a nice rail shot. And that's kind of what I talked about. You need to get that Ana down early and often in order to dismantle this Wartburg College composition. Both teams are going to be coming up on a lot in this tank for ultimate-wise. I think what it's going to come down to is who's going to be the aggressors here. Who's going to look to find their picks early and try and clean up this fight quickly.
It's a little bit harder to enter with a Mei. You don't get the advantage of those walls in choke points. Although I say that, I guess you can just hit the ice shots. And there's a bit of a wall. Of course, it's the Amp Matrix, but Wartburg, they can't afford to walk into that one. They have to use the Nano just to keep Pickle Poet up, and that robs them a lot of offensive tools. A nice try by Wartburg, but they're still committing. Oh my word, the Mail up top, really? I don't know about that one. Drake trying to heal, but Echo's up there getting rid of the Baptiste, and that was a lot of investment from Wartburg.
Yeah, I think you're going to want a lot of that back. I mean, I don't think the Mei ultimate was necessarily bad. You're able to get Carter Cart out of the, but the Amp Matrix on top, if you found kills, cool, but you did not get the value that you needed to, and it just feels like a big waste. So now Robert Morris takes over. We're coming up on Final Fight territory, and they're at a huge ult advantage coming in to this team fight.
Ooh. Trying. DPS Baptiste, not quite all the way there, but it's a good look, Drake. I mean, he's really going for it now. This is an aggressive push in too. Pickle Poet going for the Terror Surge. I mean, that Lucio's done. No way Kindling's getting out of that. You're getting burnt up in the fire. So much damage on the Pickle Poet. I mean, that was a deep commitment. And now we're at 90% for RMU. They've nearly got this first map on lock, and Blursion Surge has to head for the hills. Meanwhile, on the objective, it's an overclock special from Carter Cart. Oh, nicely done. And RMU grabbed the first map.
It was just well played. I think so far a big standout has been Carter Cart on this Sojourn. When the backs are against the wall, you need a big play to come in. They have come through big time, whether it's finding an early pick on the Ana or coming through with a massive overclock. And we kind of saw that on display right now where the fight was kind of turning in the favor of Wartburg. But in comes Carter Cart with a big overclock. Gets play of the game as well, and just bought time for their Lucy to come back and give them sound barrier.
Yeah, and I think in terms of a macro sense, we're sort of seeing that new patch dilemma from both these teams, more specifically from Wartburg, right? Because there's always two trains of thought when a patch like this one drops, right? The train of thought one, which we can see from RMU, is, look, it's not been enough time for anyone to figure out how this patch matters. Let's just keep doing what we've been practicing the whole season, basically. Let's just keep doing what we feel comfortable with and what we know works. And Wartburg, on the other hand, know that something's got to give. Something's going to change, right? We've seen different looks from them on every single submap of Antarctic Peninsula. You know, they tried to run with the Ramacho, which a lot of teams are saying is good, but couldn't quite find it. Didn't run the Lucio with it. Weren't aggressive enough. I'm not sure the positioning was right. So they didn't feel comfortable with that. So they go back mostly to what was done before, but then they're thinking, okay, but maybe there's like that cooldown penalty that we can take advantage of, right? So they throw in the Bastion, and like you talked about, the Orisa, her cooldowns don't have as long of a rotation now, so it kind of works out. And then they go back like over to a May, like, oh, Bastion's not going to work on this sub map. We need to figure something else out that might work, and it doesn't quite hit the mark. So Wartburg's still finding their feet on this patch, it feels like, and RMU just ignoring the patch notes as best they can and hoping that nothing breaks before they get 4 maps on the board.
Yeah, I do think it's kind of the smart decision. I only say that because we've literally had a day and a half. Like, if we had come into this and the patch had been out a week or two and teams had more time to practice, that's another thing. But it just came out. No one's had enough time to figure out what is the meta with this new patch. So I think just sticking to your guns, kind of playing like the London Spitfire. Like, we play this comp. We are great at this comp. We are going to beat you with this comp.
Yeah, I mean, you know, let's not give them any ideas. Well, eventually, I'd like to see the Orisa go away. That's, you know, personal preference. Somewhere Chef Billy is crying out in anguish, but me personally, I'm not a huge fan of the Orisa. We're going to map number 2 now, folks. It is going to be Shambali Monastery for our second map. Keep in mind, after that first map, because Wartburg did get to pick Antarctic Peninsula, now it is going to be losers picks from here on out, after, I believe, a ban from the winning team. So Watchpoint Gibraltar was banned. It reads to me that RMU do not want to go to maps that force them away from this Orisa, right? Watchpoint Gibraltar is, hey, no matter what the meta is, you're playing something dive. You're playing something with high ground control. So they avoid that, and instead Shambali is the selection by Wartburg. An interesting one here, Ray. I don't really feel like this does much to disrupt what RMU are doing.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, I think for the side of Wartburg, I don't know if you're planning to play this Lucio and try and match them toe for toe, but you basically brought them to a map where they can just continue playing exactly what they've been playing. They're not going to have to change up anything. Like, it's not like you're taking us to Dorado or something where it's like, okay, you know, I get that Watch Point was taken, but you take them to a different dive map and they go, okay, maybe we have to reassess whether we can play the Orisa here and try and force them away from it. But it seems like they feel pretty content trying to take this duel with them on the Orisa.
Yeah, and this might shout out to me. I mean, it could be a duel on the Orisa. It could be the fact that, hey, we're going to escort now. You don't have to run things like the Lucio here, so maybe Wartburg want to try and put the Ramacha back in with the Ana and the Baptiste, right? I feel like that would at least work better here. I'm still a fan of, you know, when you have Ramacha, you should probably have a Lucio just to give him the maximum opportunity to go in and slap the backline around. But you don't necessarily have to on a map like Shambali, so there's some opportunities for Wartburg. They're going to need to take every opportunity they can get. We're on to map number 2 here, folks. Still plenty more Overwatch to be played. Again, it is 1st to 4, as you see at the top of your screens. But Wartburg, our number 1 seed, have to imagine they want to fire back quick.
I was going to say, you know, there is always the possibility of a Sigma, especially defensively, but Wartburg is not going to like to do that, but they are going to have Blurgent Turge go over to the Sombra, which, I mean, get a good hack on the Orisa, take those cooldowns away, you can get them down pretty quickly. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea, but they are still sticking with this on a Baptiste situation, as you mentioned, but I still, even on a map like Escort, especially Shambali, I like the Lucio Kiriko a little bit better.
Interesting to go for Sombra and Shambali these days as well, because the pathing can be very difficult for Sombra after that translocator change. And you saw Echo on the Tracer all of map 1. Echo can do a lot to control Blurgent Turge. To start things off, though, with Kindling down, I doubt this is a fight Robert Morris really want to opt into. And this is nice high ground control. Again, I mean, that double flex support setup does give Wartburg College a lot of ways to stand their ground. But now in a 4v5 with spawns so close, things getting dicey. Pickle Poet has a lot of assistance from both those supports, but how can you maintain the high ground control and keep Echo off the cart right now?
Yeah, taking this high ground away is exactly what you need to do. You can't allow these supports to sit up there. Cleanup coming in from Robert Morris, and they're just off to the races. And now they put themselves in a situation where they just got to win one more team fight to get this car across the finish line. And I think it's kind of like what you mentioned. They're falling into a situation. I mean, just look at Carter Carr. He is literally shooting around trying to spy check for the Sombra, and it's going to prompt a change. Pickled Poet going over to the Zarya, which, at least in my ranked games, that tends to be what people do when they can't beat the Orisa. They go Zarya.
I mean, you know, it is a tale as old as Overwatch 2. Let's see if it works, though. I mean, there's a little bit of presence. The problem is Pickled Poet is going to have a tough time once those bubbles drop. I mean, now, yeah, you see the rotation is already gone. Pickled Poet has some high energy, but there's just no question of survivability right now on the cart. So RMU just absolutely lightning pace for point A. I mean, they got 4.5 minutes as they start second.
Yeah, prompting a switch from Blurgent Turge going over to the Cassie now. I like that a lot better. I think the magnetic grenade you now have available, being able to hinder this Orisa, slow her down, I think it's going to be a big deal, but you're going to have to get a lot of value out of this, or you have to get high charge and be able to lay tons of damage onto this Orisa.
Pickle Poet can. Ooh, echoed. I mean, stepping out into just a barrage of damage there. Bob does get chuckled. Bob just got yeeted like a table flip after you've lost a game. Oh my word. I mean, great control there from RMU. They get away with barely any time stagger, but I mean, come on, that was hilarious.
Sounds like Bob's gonna need that new tank passive 50% knockback that we're gonna be getting mid-season. Oh man, that was insane. But just look at all these white check marks for Robert Morris. 5 to be able to use in this fight, but it's gonna take 2 more fights to get this through. So being able to just judiciously use these ultimates clinically is gonna be the key.
Now, RMU are hoping that something can come out of the Pulse Bomb to start it off. Echo did get scouted. Now throws the Pulse Bomb in alongside the Terra Surge. I mean, that's an expensive fight from RMU, but one pretty worthwhile, especially as they're getting pretty late staggers. I don't think there's going to be a real contest here from Warburg, especially considering they're not running a Lucio.
Oh, yeah, with no Lucio, late staggers. I mean, they played that fight as well as you could to only make it into a one-fight territory. So, man, this is a massive time taking for a map like Shambali. The one thing you do got to worry about is this incoming grab, but they have the perfect counter with this sound barrier from Kindling. So, it seems like Robert Morris has the zag every time Wartburg can zig.
If anything, I'm looking for French Rob and Blurgent Turge to pick it up right now, pop off. They got to have this ult tracking. They have to know who the primary target is. Kindling needs to be the one on the menu. Pickle Poet doing a good job of just dancing around the cart. I mean, it is annoying to get rid of the Zarya if nothing else. There's the grab, beat to counter. Pickle Poet in some trouble. Nano out now, but a nice sleep dart too. Maruki getting roasted. This is what you want when you've got a Zarya on the field. But now, how are Wartburg College going to hold past this?
Yeah, I mean, so far so good. There's still a lot of time to tick off the clock, but this Ant Matrix has the ability to get a lot done. Again, we've seen some great ones coming out from Drake, and we've seen some not so great ones, but with the amount of limited space you have to push here, this Ant Matrix should come through pretty big.
It feels difficult to do wrong. I mean,
I say that, but they don't wait for them to push.
You use it to buy some time, I guess. I wouldn't say it's explicitly wrong. I wouldn't say it's optimal. Probably could have comboed that with Deadeye too, or maybe a rail shot. I mean, feels like there were more deadly ways to use the Ant Matrix there, but sure.
Right now would have been a great time to use it.
Yeah, things gonna get tricky now. Deadeye just to try and keep RMU from benefiting off of their own support ultimate, but they're happy to wait the Deadeye out. They're breaking through this choke point. Make no mistake, and a Terror Surge, nasty. Doesn't get the final blows, but you bet your bottom dollar it's what did the damage. A grab thrown in and haste too by Pickled Poet. I mean, late in the fight, you're 3 down already. It just doesn't find anything.
Yeah, exactly. I think you're wanting that one back if you're Pickled Poet. I mean, they did get a lot of people low, but with just them to focus the damage, it was not enough. As you mentioned, you've been calling for French Rob and Blurgent Turd to step up. Blurgent Turd's now on the bash, and French Rob has the overclock. He can...
Oh!
He can't do anything, apparently, because they capped the point.
French Rob tried to dive onto the objective, was the only one off respawn in time, but I believe got booped off by the Orisa, by the Lucio, just chucked into the air, juggled away from the cart, and nobody else is able to get there in time. I mean, 2 minutes and 17 seconds is an unbelievable time bank on Shambali Monastery. This is now the second map in a row where Wartburg have gotten the choice of where they wanted to try and play, and it has not gotten off to a good start for them.
That it hasn't. I'm thinking of all my recent casts I've done of this map, and I think 217's up there for the time banks I've seen on this map. So very impressive from Robert Morris. I mean, they're just their combos on their ults are so. I just think back to that second point where they basically comboed Pulse Bomb and Terror Surge. They used the Terror Surge, got everyone in the middle, used the Pulse and forced out the lamp. So the Pulse Bomb got rid of the lamp, and the Terror Surge is able to finish everyone off. It was just, I mean, ode to Chef Billy, Chef's Kiss, beautiful.
Man, and it feels, look, this is attacker spawns. Maybe I'm getting baited here by Pickled Poet. It feels early to be throwing everything out the window and trying to roll the Maga in. I mean, that feels pretty bold.
I don't think it's necessarily a bad comp, though. Like, especially with the changes to the Orisa, I actually kind of expect some of the teams in OWCS to probably pull this out on the new patch. We'll have to see, though. I think, again, as I talked about the cooldown management from the Orisa, if you get that Fortify and that Javelin Spin out, this Maga can just go to town getting those crits on the Orisa.
Yeah, the first thing first, though, you have to keep your entire team alive long enough to where both those cooldowns are gone and you still have some available, right? That's going to be the name of the game right now. There goes one, the Javelin Spin. Fortify pops next by Maruki. Actually, I don't believe that was. I think that was just the burn there. Got to keep your Bastion alive, too. Blurgent Turge, very important for here. And Echo, all the while, is just pounding the backline, completely annoying them. And French Rob off on his own mission, not able to stay alive or pick anyone off. Echo's already 70% of the way to a Pulse Bomb. Okay, finally we get an answer back. Both Sojourns gone for the moment, and one is going to have a much closer respawn. It is a war of attrition right now for Wartburg College. They're not looking to do anything too hastily. They're just forcing RMU back inch by inch.
I'm going to say, finally, they're taking a look at this Tracer just a little bit. Maruki going down. That's the ticket you've been waiting for if you're Wartburg College. Now you should get some good distance on this cart. Pulse Bomb is going to come through, but it goes wide. And,
ambitious.
you think, in a losing effort like that, you wanted to hold on and wait if you're Robert Morris.
Yeah, I mean, now Echo's been staggered as well. You're going to have to wait longer to re-engage. I think RMU had an opportunity there to maybe drop from the window or even just push aggressively through the main road. Instead, now they've got to hold all the way back, basically at the end of the objective.
And Nano Bash and Nano Maga could go very strong here. The question is, who are they going to elect to go with here? Because that's a lot of damage on either of those with the Nano.
Terror Surge pulls him in. Nice immortality field there. Drake doing a great job. And now the question is can Wartburg find a pick before can RMU find a pick before Wartburg are able to coalesce and regroup. Now that Nanomaga comes in and artillery to just deal tons of damage. A beat perfectly timed though, and Pickle Poet is a bit overextended with no tank and a Kitsune Rush down. It's hard to imagine Wartburg are going to be able to push much further. I mean, they've gotten good progress so far, but will only have 90 seconds to finish off point A.
I do think they have an opportunity for essentially the Nano. They were able to pull out Kitsune Rush and Sound Barriers. So I think that's going to be a big W, especially with this cage match coming online for Pickled Poet. They're going to have absolutely no defensive ults or, you know, cooldowns to really deal with this. So I think this ult could go extremely strong, even coupled with this overclock.
I mean, yeah, I wouldn't want to be stuck in a cage when there's a Bastion and a Sojourn that are potentially watching. Pickle Poet has to find the right opportunity, though, the right target or targets to lock up. That's a nice Ant Matrix. Good turn of the corner. That's what we've been waiting to see from Dreg. I mean, now with 2 already down, it's just a question of how long are RMU going to be able to stall. Not very when the cage match is thrown down to secure this first objective. Or if we're going to extend their time a bit here, about 3 minutes to keep this moving.
Yeah, that's exactly the combination I was hoping for. Ant Matrix cage fight, nothing you can get done there if you're Robert Morris, just too much damage on the field. And they're able to bank what could be a nano to overclock coming in this next fight to help get them some momentum, because the amount of time it took them to cap that first point, they're going to have to make that up on the second point.
It's hard. It's going to be hard to do as well. RMU with quite a few tools, especially ones that function very deadly inside this corridor. Pickle Poet already in some trouble. Echo managed to get a stick there, but I believe the Immortality Field eats the potential lethality of that one. Nice Terra Surge. Ooh, really good anti, but it's not enough. The Suzu cleanses it, and Dreg hits the floor. Now trying to make up the deficit. French Rob pushing forward, good for one. Sees the enemy Sojourn, wants to try and take him down. Kitsune Rush, though, is too much damage to extend into, and Pickle Poet is left alone. Now RMU, with their tanks still alive, are going to be able to hold the line and push Wartburg back.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think Pickled Poet got, you know, either you want to call him Icarus and, you know, flew too close to the sun. It just went way too far forward on that push. The team was not ready to be able to, you know, go up there with him and protect him, and he just gets absolutely decimated. French Rob is now going to make a swap off of the Sojourn, going over to the Soldier 76, which Soldier 76 will provide a lot more consistent damage, but you kind of lose that ability to one-shot with the railgun.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to imagine in the modern day of Overwatch, Sojourn just so strong.
Yeah.
That this is going to be the ticket that seals the deal for Wartburg College. I mean, okay, I mean, artillery dealing a lot of damage to Maruki. Ant Matrix available too. I mean, if Wartburg can successfully turn this corner, that Ant Matrix is going to be deadly, but French Rob's already down. Carter laying in the overclock, keeping Wartburg at bay, and they've only got a minute left. Do they go for a reset, or do they commit? They want to try and fight it, but that Ant Matrix isn't really in the right angle. Maruki pushes forward past it. Terror Surge, too much damage. Dreg is down. Both supports gone now for Wartburg, and they're hardly going to have any time to get back to the cart.
Yeah, that's absolutely baffling, them throwing in that Ant Matrix like that. One of the combo that basically opened it up and got them that point was the Ant Matrix with the cage fight, and you're going to have that for this next fight. Final fight for them to make something happen. You know, maybe you throw the Nano in this time. You have Blurgent Turge going over to the Reaper now. That's going to be a lot more consistent upfront damage that the Arista is going to have to deal with, but will it be enough, and is it too little too late?
I mean, Wartburg College have been playing quite a bit of hero roulette thus far, some mystery heroes for them. Oh, and already so much damage to Dreg. That's nasty. Good work there from, I think it was Nocturna actually, just hitting the kunai headshot. Now the cage match is out, only the tank really trapped in it. Actually, no, there's 2 in there. Echo as well. That's going to force the sound barrier out. If Wartburg can survive now, if they can get back in here with some tools, they've already used their Nano though, so how do you break past Maruki? I mean, Blurgent Turge surely has to get up in their face, but no, I mean, biggest of owls is down. Now the overclocked out too. Carter Cart laying waste, just body shot after body shot into Pickle Poet, now picking up the stragglers as well. Another map on the board. Robert Morris University off to a clean start thus far in our grand finals.
I think it's the perfect word to describe how these maps have gone for Robert Morris. Clean. They're just clinical. They have their ult combinations on point. They don't waste any. Like, they don't tend to throw 4 ults into a single fight, get the win, and then they're kind of screwed ult economy wise for a little bit. They're just on point right now and looking great. This is exactly how you'd want to open up a grand finals. I kind of did talk about how dropping these first 2 maps in a first to 4, it's not as bad. It's not like a first to 3 where you drop 2 and you're like, oh man, we have to be perfect the rest of the way. They have an opportunity to regroup, figure this out, and they have plenty of maps to get back into this if you're Wartburg.
Yeah, some time to recover for our #1 seed, but RMU already looking really nice and tidy. We'll see if they're able to lock this up in 4. I mean, not to be biased, Castro. I hope not. I want to see more Overwatch. Wartburg are gonna have to run this back when we come back from a quick break. Robert Morris University Academy Red currently up 2-0 against the number 1 seed Wartburg College here in the NECC Nationals 2024 finals for our emergent division. That's quite a mouthful, but what you really need to know thus far is Robert Morris have looked clean, tidy, absolutely, well, to say flawless is maybe putting too much sauce on it, but they have looked very disciplined thus far, and comparatively Wartburg have been struggling to find their footing. It is a new patch, but you know, Robert Morris don't really mind. They're just going to play in the same old Sojourn with the the Orisa with the Sojourn and the Tracer. That's what I meant to say here. And on the other side of things, Wartburg, it's been a little bit all over the place, Ray.
Yeah, and to me, it's really, I mean, it's not like these supports are playing bad. I just think they are playing less effective heroes for the compositions they've been playing. Even when you're playing Mauga or Ramatra or Orisa, those are the main tanks we've seen from them. Even Azaria, generally you want a Lucio with those kinds of tanks, and we just have not seen that out of them. And the Ana, although there's been times where they found value from the Nano, the Nays just find nothing because the other team is playing Kiriko and, just Suzu too good, lol.
Yeah, I mean, conceptually, I love playing Ana, but I think it is difficult to run the Ana, or even specifically the Ana Baptiste. Either one, I think, would pair maybe a little bit better with a Lucio. We are going to head to our number 3 map. This is the 3rd one in a row now that Wartburg have gotten to select because they were our number 1 seed. They got to pick Antarctic Peninsula, and then they lost twice, so they've picked the next 2 maps as well. New Junk City is where they're going to try and make a stand before they have to start thinking about the long reverse sweep to come back in this city or this series. It is not now or never, but it's close.
The only thing I can sit here and say I'm happy about is that we're actually going to New Junk City. Just as casters here with this map specifically for Flashpoint, every team loves to pick Saravasa, and I get it, but I love me some New Junk City, so I'm very excited that we're finally getting a series that's going to this map.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, as casters who are like covering things, right? We like to see some diversity. I think Saravasa is just widely considered to be the more fun map to actually play. But New Junk City, a little bit of, I guess it's not really innovation when there's only 2 maps in the pool, but, something different, something at least outside of the technical norm here for Wartburg College. The question is are they going to have something new? Or at least something that matches their selection in terms of their compositions, because they've really been struggling to find their footing compositionally. It's been a lot of mystery heroes from them, and I want to see them play something they feel comfortable with as we head into the 3rd map of this first of 4.
As we take a look at what these teams are looking to play, and I see a very good sign from the side of Wartburg. They have brought in Yolo Tylo, who is going to play this Lucio. I've been waiting for this. I still don't think it's as optimal to play the Ana, but considering they're going against a Baptiste on the other side, no Kiriko, there's no Suzu online, so these nades can find a lot of value.
Definitely feels like a moment of opportunity for Wartburg College. I mean, if you're not running Lucio on Flashpoint, regardless of the meta, I do think that you are insane. So good to see that Wartburg are cognizant of that at the very least. Right now, Blurgeon Turge and Echo just exchanging some fire on the extremities. Blurgeon Turge does have to be a little bit careful. I mean, Tracer will win in a straight-up head-to-head. Blurgeon Turge has to find an opportunity in opening a surprise strike into the lines, or at least at the enemy Tracer. Does see a pretty low Baptiste. Instead opts for the Cassidy, but okay, with the help of French Rob, is able to pick that off and translocate back to safety with the rest of the team. Wartburg College with an advantage to open up here in the arena. Can they capitalize it? I mean, now Robert Morris have moved to the low ground. They're getting some percentage, but it is a matter of time before they are evicted. I mean, look at how Wartburg have completely surrounded them and are now forcing them away from the objective.
Yeah, they're doing a great job, French Rob, from afar, putting a lot of pressure and forcing out this immortality field early. And Bludgeon Turge, we're not seeing a lot in the kill feed, but I think they're just doing a good job of kind of playing distraction, keeping Echo away from doing as much damage onto the backline as possible, just keeping people busy and not allowing them to get the value that they've been getting thus far in the series.
Bludgeon Turge again on that long flank, just keeping an eye right now. Echo more focused on the front, actually not even scouting for the Sombra currently. Robert Morris, they're going to have to go in pretty quick if they don't want to get surrounded. There's a nice anti. Immortality field forced out. Nocturna now feeling a ton of heat. Yolo Tolo the first to fall, though. The Terror Surge sniping that one away, and this Nano from onto Pickle Pocket, or Pickled Poet rather, is not going to be enough to keep him sturdy in the front line. Instead, Robert Morris able to do more than enough to get rid of Wartburg. 81%, I mean, one more fight and Wartburg have it.
Yeah, and you basically traded 3 ults for 1 if you're Wartburg. Sound Barrier, Window, and Pulse Bomb used. You're going to come back, EMP, Tactical Visor. I think the EMP and the Annihilation alone should win you this point, and you should be able to pocket your Sound Barrier and Tactical Visor.
Yeah, you'd hope that an EMP Annihilation would get some good work put in. But first you have to find the right opening for it. Bludgeon Turge, waiting to see them pop up. There it is. Translocate in. The damage has to follow up swiftly. Swiftly, you can't be whiffing these punches. Okay, Tac Visor does have to be invested. So it's expensive for Wartburg, but they get the first objective out of it. So a worthwhile expenditure, if I do say so.
Yeah, I agree. You'll take that every day just to secure you get this. If they had to throw the Sound Barrier, though, that would have been absolutely devastating. But you got to keep that defensive capability coming into the next point, which looks like it's going to be Ducks. So this one is like the most interesting point on this map, in my opinion. Like, because the point is on the low ground, but you also have to maintain high ground control. So it can be kind of tricky to hold.
And Echo was on a cheeky flank, but gets scouted. And yeah, Wartburg, they're not going to wait for the Tracer to regroup. Beautiful anti by Biggest of Owls. I mean, what do you do after that? There's no recovery here.
Yeah, that there isn't. I mean, now you get the Fortify out, so now that you're going to be able to get this Orisa down early. Maruki's down, and now you're in a position where you're, I mean, these nades we talked about, they're not playing Kiriko, and we're seeing the value time and time again. Biggest of Owls finding so much early in these fights.
Nocturna does finally swap over to the Kiriko. That feels like the secret sauce Robert Morris had been missing. Now, because Owls is going to struggle to put up those same early fight opening plays. And it's going to be pretty much entirely on Bludgeon Church's shoulders rather. Nice little hack there onto Echo, but it doesn't last long enough to keep Echo down. Recall does have to be used, but I mean, if you're going to trace down the enemy Sombra, that's worthwhile. Sound Barrier used early and a Nano to follow it up. But you still have to fall off the high ground because a Deadeye is just too much damage to tank regardless of a Nano. Now the advantage goes over to RMU and they just have to see it through. There goes French Rob. It feels good for RMU to come back into this. They will have to hold probably 2 fights though.
That they will, and you're going to get this in a position. Hey, you get Pulse Bomb out. That is huge. That is big if you are Wartburg. You get this into 1-fight territory, and the only ult Robert Morris is going to have to hold right now is Sound Barrier. Maybe you get a Kitsune Rush online, but you're coming up on that deadly combination once again. The EMP, the Annihilation, and Attack Visor. This is looking pretty good for Wartburg if they can just bring it all together.
I feel like I'm getting deja vu with those 3 ults online again for Wartburg as they come back in 1-fight territory. I mean, Bludgeon Turge just has to find the opportunity. And it's going to be hard to avoid them. The timing here isn't necessarily ideal. I mean, Bludgeon Turge is trying to force hands down to the objective. Carter is able to stay away from it, though. And Robert Morris not in a position, not really grouped up. Now they're going to have to try and group up. Yeah, the Sound Barrier having to be used. Tac Visor there just to pull out that supportive ultimate. Bludgeon Turge coming back in. Here's the EMP. Lands onto 4. Is there follow-up? Bludgeon Turge is down. Annihilation doesn't look like it's going to be enough. Gotta have to tank so much damage. And no, Carter Cart stops it in its tracks. So deja vu, not an issue for Robert Morris this time. They knew what the play was. They saw it coming.
Yeah, that was huge. Getting Bludgeon Turge down immediately after that EMP. Now that's going to be the first point cap for Robert Morris, and such an expensive fight for Wartburg to not find anything. I was actually cool using that Sound Barrier, I mean the Tactical Visor, to pull out the Sound Barrier, but they just could not come through with the EMP Annihilation combo. And now you're in a situation where Robert Morris coming into this 3rd point, they have the Terror Surge, but they've liked to combo it with the Pulse Bomb, so they're gonna have that available to them for this next fight. So you got to be extremely careful and have that Sound Barrier on the ready to deal with it.
Warburg at least get advantageous pathing. They're going to try and lock RMU out of this. The problem is, I mean, even with reduced cooldowns, Maruki can just pop the Javelin Spin and bully Pickled Poet away from any choke point. So you already see Warburg having to cede some ground on the high ground. Pickled Poet's still pretty low, too. I'm not sure Warburg know where they actually want to assail. They're going to have to drop the beat just to keep the tank alive, just to keep the support alive, and booped off the edge. A Sound Barrier doesn't help you if you've got an express flight to Doomsville. Bloody fight. But Pickled Poet, I mean, surrounded. The block, even the Ramatra block is not enough. And Robert Morris, good for a first cap.
Again, it's kind of perplexing to me backing up to where the edge is on this map when you know you're facing an Orisa who can just Javelin spin you toward the edge. That is extremely rough and unfortunate pathing from Wartburg. I mean, once again, they're in a position where they're coming up with this EMP again, but they don't have the other ults to really combo with it. So, I mean, EMP alone should be enough to win you a team fight. We just haven't seen them come through with it. They've always had to combo it with something else.
And an overclock is still going to be deadly no matter how you approach this. Carter has been a menace with those all series long. French Rob trying to find an angle here, just put some pressure on the backline. Nice pick from Blurge and Turge. That means you at least don't have to look behind. You can focus on the people on point, and an EMP at the ready only catches Carter somehow. I thought that was at least going to be good for 3. A trade of DPS. I mean, kindling pretty low. Does have the Sound Barrier, but it's too low, too low. You don't want to drop it now. Don't risk an Ajax. You're at 95% in counting. You can come back if you need to, and maybe you don't even have to regroup. I mean, Pickled Poet's so low, taken down now. Is there even going to be enough damage to get rid of Maruki? Nice Javelin! Right to Yolotolo's face, too. Oh, just barely the DPS get there in time, but are they actually going to be able to hold this to salvage the objective?
Yeah, you're going to have to win either 2 long fights or 3 short ones if it's at a Wartburg. Robert Morris is going to have 5 ultimates to be able to come in. So you're really hoping that you find massive value out of... Basically, what you're going to have to do is force out Sound Barrier with 1 ult and hope that you get a lot of value out of the second ult. That's your only path to holding this, or finding quick and early fights, but you don't really have that without the Sojourn.
Robert Morris just running straight at Warburg, too, not even bothering with the objective. They know they have the Kitsune Rush. They know they have a Pulse Bomb. Already 1 down. Carter with an overclock, too. An expensive fight from Robert Morris. They may need to find a little bit more. Okay, with the Ana down and the Annihilation pulled out, suddenly things are looking good for Robert Morris. They double back to the objective, and they're keeping Pickled Poet off it. Not going to be able to even contest. 1 more round, and Robert Morris are on the precipice of a grand final victory. They just need to lock up New Junk City. One of the next 2 is good for them.
You talked about expensive, but they're now in the driver's seat on New Junk City. And I mean, you got Wartburg to use quite a bit of ultimates as well. So I think you'll take that every day to Sunday. You are going to have to worry about this incoming tactical advisor, especially with no support ultimates online whatsoever. But like you mentioned, Robert Morris has been clean, and look at that.
Woo! Oh, man. And I mean, Wartburg go back to a discount mirror of Robert Morris's comp. I mean, French... Okay, I called it discount.
Oh,
French,
no!
Oh, how he found his way back. Okay, French Rob getting 2 and getting out, if only barely. What a play from French Rob. You know, I've been knocking the soldier all map long, but if you're going to be able to do that, fair enough.
And that was great peel from Pickled Poet to keep their Ana alive. So now they don't have to worry about using their Lucio to taxi. Now they can just take their aggressive stance and look for the rotations from Robert Morris and just be ready for them. And that's exactly what they're doing right now.
And against the Orisa, it's harder for Robert Morris to just force their way past the choke. Carter still, when you're losing players left and right. French Rob has flipped a switch in his brain. Refuses to go down 3-0 in this series and have to long reverse sweep the way back.
It's felt like he's kind of taken our trepidations about the soldier and kind of throwing it back in our face. He's like, look, I'm making it work, baby. Like, do not doubt me on this soldier.
As long
76.
as I keep killing Carter before Carter can get value, it doesn't matter if the Sojourn is technically better. Soundbarrier
Exactly.
and Nano used here, though. Robert Morris just trying to get away from it, evade all of the value, and Blurge and Turge over chasing a bit. Falls into their hands, and Terra Surge to try and lock some members up, gets the both supports, and that's the play Wartburg College needed to make. Beautifully done. I mean, that's 100 to 0. Okay, it's 100 to like 6. There's a cheeky little back cap comes in from Echo, but it's not going to be enough. Yeah, Pulse Bomb, using Pulse Bomb there is feral. I don't know what Echo's up to.
Like it feels like they should be locked up for that one. Like,
Echo has been convinced that that is a cooldown ability. I have not seen Echo not use a Pulse Bomb thus far in this series.
I mean, Blurget Turge is now on the Tracer, is going to have an opportunity to try and outdo Echo with these Pulse Bombs and make something happen here. Ducks, the final map to decide. Are we going to have a 3-0 or do we get a series here 2-1?
Legend Turret's Pulse Bomb does go into the floor. So not much there. Now Kitsune rush on the objective. Doubt Wartburg College want to try and contend with that one. Heading for the hills as it were. They're able to avoid losing anyone. The first cap likely will go over to RMU as a result, but Wartburg will regroup quickly.
Yeah, but they don't have a lot to push into this fight with. You're coming into an overclock and a sound barrier, and French Rob is down.
That was the one ult that they almost had. Yeah. And now you have to wonder yourselves as Wartburg, would it have been better to just die on the point and maybe get an ult out, or was it the right call to try and regroup like that against the Kitsune rush? Have to wonder about it in VOD review, though. Don't really have the time to doubt now, especially with losing staggers. They're only going to have one run at this.
Yeah, really, it's only going to come down to one fight, and just the staggering ult advantage that Robert Morris is going to have. I mean, 3, maybe if you get this sound barrier online, you can match him 3 for 3, but it is going to be tough. I think this overclock is going to be tough to deal with. YOLO Tylo has to get the sound barrier online for this final attack for Wartburg to keep the threat of them going down 3-0.
Bolt play 2 coming out here from French Rob on the long flank. Nano onto Pickle Poet pushing in as fast as they can. But now the sound barrier is up and this tack visor doesn't have the teeth to bite through the shields. Terra Surge completely whiffs 2 from Pickle Poet. 99% and counting. Perfectly timed recall. Echo evading a javelin that would have taken him down. A lob in for a pulse bomb in desperation. But, I mean, Maruki does fall. Now it's all on Carter. Carter, you need 2 more shots. There it is. All right, French Rob down. And I don't think there's enough legs to stand on Wartburg falling slowly, but surely. Lurch and Turge found by the enemy Echo. And that is already 3 on the board for Robert Morris for the rest of this series, no matter how long it lasts. They will be on match point.
And now all the pressure that's... I mean, they've been under pressure from map number 1 has Wartburg, but... now it's a whole different level. It's like we took the gas stove and we turned it all the way up, man. The pressure is mounting. You cannot afford to lose a single map the rest of the series. And we talk about how hard reverse sweeps can be in a 1st to 3. Now we're talking about a 1st to 4 where you have to have the mental fortitude to take 4 maps in a row. This is not easy for the side of Wartburg.
I will say, silver lining, right? You know, trying to keep Wartburg on the up and up. I think after that map, they can see that the compositions that they leaned to on Flashpoint were the closest yet. That was the most competitive Wartburg have looked the whole series, right? It didn't look like, oh, well, RMU were just playing solid, consistent, disciplined Overwatch, and Wartburg are kind of flailing around. That looked like 2 really good teams going head-to-head, all with their own plans and different plays. Wartburg, I'd love to see more of the Orisa, love to see more of the Lucio. Just keep it aggressive, keep up in RMU's face. Don't let them play comfortable for the remainder of this series.
I will say, all things considered, they were making that Ana work pretty well. I mean, they literally forced swaps to the Kiriko. They're like, basically, you're playing it so well, they go, on the side of Robert Morris, this Ana, too much value. We have to play Kiriko here. We cannot allow these anti-nades to continue to infect our team. And, I mean, once the Kiriko did swap, every time I kept seeing a good nade come out, but it immediately just cleansed. So the attempt is there, and the plays are there. It's just, the Suzu is just too good on the side for Kiriko.
And, you know, we've seen one support sub in already, right? I have to wonder if maybe Drake comes back in for Biggest of Owls, right? I think if you're running a Baptiste in that scenario, if you're not relying on the anti-nade to try and make plays for you, and maybe giving a little bit more leeway to players like Pickled Poet or even, you know, French Rob, you know, Baptiste behind a soldier at least gives him more opportunities, especially in the long run, which a soldier often needs to find that same sort of value as a sojourn, right? So maybe that could be something that Wartburg consider. We are headed to our map number 4. We are going to push Esperanza, going to be the name of the game. And I love this selection because I feel of all of our push maps, Esperanza is the one where RMU are most likely to be uncomfortable with the comp they've been running.
You say that, but I've seen
it's
plenty.
Not unplayable by any stretch of the imagination. But if you wanted to try and throw a complete wrench in the gears, run something totally different, Esperanza is a really good dive map.
Yes, I definitely agree that it's a very good dive map. The question is dive in the wheelhouse of Wartburg? Because that's a good question, because we talked about going back to Shambali. They picked Shambali. You think if they had dive and they felt good on dive, even though Gibraltar was banned, you could have taken us to Dorado or just a better map to play dive on. Just seems like with these map picks coming from Wartburg, they have not picked a single map where you really run dive on like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's no easy answer for Wartburg. I'm just going through it like, okay, on map 1, Wartburg tried to run just kind of anything. Didn't work. Map 2, they tried to run like up in your face, like with Maga and the Ramatra. Didn't work. Map number 3, they finally had the Lucio back into the mix. Get the Ramatra going, and it almost works, but still doesn't quite work. Really, all that's left in my checklist is like, okay, either go straight into the mirror comp, which I feel like they would have done by now if that was something Warper wanted to do, or try and pivot hard and go dive.
I mean, I agree, and I think it's a possibility, but I just don't know.
It's not like, oh, absolute solution. Just run dive, forehead, you'll win. It's not that simple. If it was, Wartburg likely wouldn't find themselves in the unenviable position of being down 0-3. Maybe there's a chance for it. I mean, we'll find out in a few seconds if I'm just talking nonsense or not.
I did like seeing the Tracer come out from Blurgent Turret on the previous map, but it does not look like they are looking to continue that going forward. They have brought Drake back in, but they have taken their Lucio player out, and they have decided to go the route of a Brig Baptiste, which I'm a little surprised. I feel like
a choice.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess the thought process is like, oh, Honor hasn't been working. Let me play something else. I don't know if Brig is necessarily the answer I would have gone for. I mean,
I saw some Kiriko Bap before Brig Bap. Like, at least you have two saving abilities with the Suzu and the Immortality.
I go almost any other healer Bap before Brig Bap right now. But hey, maybe Wartburg something knows something we don't.
Oh!
Well, Blurgent Turret didn't know he was about to get his head taken off. I'll tell you that much for free.
Man, Carter has just been on a tear this series.
Nasty.
It's disgusting. And yes, we saw the soldier getting value on the last map, but time and time again in this series, Carter Cart has just been absolutely carrying the squad on the Sojourn.
And I mean, now Carter Cart's set up on the high ground here too. This is going to be so difficult for Wartburg to assail. Blurgent Turret has to get something done on this high ground. You can see Echo is sticking around. Nocturna's right here. Even if Blurgent Turret gets up there, like, how do you force Carter Cart away? Especially if he's just ripping through your team's skulls one by one.
Yeah, the answer is you don't. You don't deal with Carter Cart. He's just going to find your head and not allow you to take this high ground away from him. There's another pick he gets.
I mean, he's playing a point-and-click simulator at this point. It's just no... And see, this is why I talked about dive. If you were running a Winston or something, you could go up there.
I agree.
I mean,
he looks like he's just playing aim labs at this point.
It's not an easy answer, but we're running so low on time. I mean, already the checkpoint... There's no contest here. This is the checkpoint.
That is ridiculous to get this checkpoint in under 2 minutes. And we know on these push maps, the absolute value going forward Robert Morris now has getting these checkpoints. If Wartburg ever wants to get any kind of kart progress going forward, it takes 2 fights for them to be able to do that.
Legend Church now trying to at least use this low ground position to come up with a viable flank, but can't quite pick up the hack. Echo doing a good job of shutting that down. The Terror Surge does get rid of Nocturna. An opportunity, but only if you can keep Pickle Poet alive, and he is ushered away from any sort of support the backline could offer. Now, I mean, they're just trying to 2v1 Carter Cart. Oh, 2v2. Oh, the pulse bomb at their feet. Sent into the sky are the carcasses. At least Blursion Turge and French Rob are getting something done. It took some time, though.
Yeah, I mean, Carter Cart goes on a flank and is able to take the attention of the supports, but in the meantime, Wartburg has just killed the rest of Robert Morris. So, all things considered, you're going to take that, but the forward spawns are already paying off for Robert Morris. They're able to recontest this cart, and they have a strong ult advantage coming in this next fight. But EMP could dispel all of that if you get a good one.
Kitsune Rush is already invested, though. Wartburg have no interest. They've shown before they don't want to fight this, but they have nowhere to run either. Nice boop, too. Drake's out in the open. That was beautiful from Kindling there to isolate the Baptiste and not let him get back into cover. Checkpoint is once again grabbed by RMU, and they're just going to rack up mileage here.
Say the only thing you got going for you if you're Wartburg was 2 ults for 0, so they can re-engage in this next fight with EMP.
Well, Pickle Poet's already gone. The beat is here. Oh no, the timing was so unfortunate. RMU, what can you... Nothing even bothers them. You could break their legs, you could rip off their arms, and they'd still fight just as hard.
Look, it's literally felt like that old saying where you're throwing stuff against the wall until something sticks for Wartburg, and nothing has stuck for them. And it's just been very unfortunate for them. Robert Morris has just played clean and played together, and they're just working really well together.
I mean, 6 minutes remain, and RMU are already past the 110 point. This has to be the turnaround. You need to start now. Already 2 for French Rob out of the TAC Visor. No more investment. Nano Visor is all you can afford because you've got a long journey ahead of you and you need to save every dime for gas money.
Yeah, Blurgent Turge is going to go over to the Tracer now. I like that swap coming in. The Sombra just, I mean, we've seen throughout the series, it's just not finding the value that they've needed. Even on the last map on New Junk City, they were playing Tracer and it got value. Okay. Drake finds Echo. This is a great opening pick and an opportunity for them to start getting some distance.
I mean, technically, that was a stagger, too. Echo was still resetting from the last fight. Maruki taking a ton of damage as well. Another pick there is huge for Wartburg. Finally, they'll be able to get something done. Some deaths on the card here just to stall for time, but Wartburg will manage to move their way at least through this first archway. Still got another fight before they take the before they take the checkpoint, though.
Yeah, but the one dangerous thing they're about to be facing has been their kryptonite this entire series. Carter Cart with an overclock on their side. So, and I mean, you're back on the Ana Baptiste. So, outside of Immortality Field, you really don't have much to mitigate this overclock at all.
Wartburg College walls are about to be your best friends. Stay near them. They're going to be the only thing between you and a railgun. Echo once again falling pretty early here. So now the question is, RMU, I mean, they've got some time. They can choose to take a little bit of a later engage. Circling back to where they need to hold this checkpoint. Cart progress slow as well. No one was actually on the cart for a moment there. So RMU are going to be full force to try and stop this checkpoint. They got to move up now. Terror Surge to try and lock him out. Nice damage, too, and an anti-perfectly placed. Can't use a Suzu if you're trying to ult instead. The Kitsune Rush goes to waste, and Wartburg are on their way.
Yeah, I mean, already made up more than half of the distance. Things are turning around, and they have a Nano Pulse Bomb and Tactical Visor to work with. I mean, the thing that started to turn around was the Nano Tac Visor, so they have the ability to possibly use this again. Kindling, I mean, maybe you use the Pulse Bomb to try and force out the sound barrier and give yourself the ability to get maximum value.
That's a tough start, though. Who are you even going to put the sound barrier or the Nano on now? Drake already feeling the heat, has to use the lamp, and it is a way it's enough. Just beamed down by Carter Cart, the railgun, unnecessary even. some progress made for Wartburg College. Still 3 minutes on the clock, 3:19 in fact. But they're going to be reset pretty far here, especially with the staggers we're about to see. I mean, Kindling is going to go around, boop him back in. The Nano invested. Hello? Pickle Poet's still not getting out of this one, I don't think. I mean, some reinforcements have shown up. Maruki overextended. Wait a minute. Was that the biggest brain Nano we've seen all series?
I definitely think it was a really good one, and now that's 2 for 2. Make that 3 for 2, as the decisive advantage is now gone for Wartburg. Robert Morris got too big for their britches, tried to force the issue. I understand going after that Ana and that Orisa, but the close spawns came in so strong for Wartburg College, and now you're in a situation where you can use your Terra Surge and combo that with this Ant Matrix.
Still a ways to go, but Wartburg, if they're able to run back this map, or man, even this series somehow, you'll have to imagine that Nano as the turning point. First things first, though, you have to keep this moving. Echo up top, looking for entrance into the backline, has the Pulse Bomb available. Lurgent Turge, aware of it, has to call this out. Oh, too much damage, the stick doesn't quite come through, though. Lurgent Turge is down. Wartburg College, they need French Rob, and he's ever so low. A war of attrition, you're not going to win this, even with an Ant Matrix up. RMU can just peel back for a moment. French Rob is taking too much damage, and there's a Kitsune Rush just running straight past Pickle Poet onto Drake, and now it's all falling to pieces.
I mean, again, but that Sound Barrier, Pulse Bomb, and Kitsune Rush you threw into that fight, and they used no Attack Visor was the fight before that, so they just use Ant Matrix. So now the close spawns come in. You're going to get a close fight for Wartburg, but it's going to take 2 or 3 more clean, good fights for them to try and steal this map away and keep their hopes alive of taking this championship and keeping the reverse sweep alive.
Wartburg College, nothing but flawless play would be needed from our #1 seed so far. Bludgeon Turge going for it, hits the stick. It's cleansed off though. The Suzu Nocturna right there and ready. Echo falling at least. So an opportunity was presented to Wartburg College, despite the Pulse Bomb not hitting its mark. Railgun still available though, and French Rob gone. Overclock in hand, and you don't even need to really use it. Not until you see some squishies. Maruki is hosed down by Pickle Poet, courtesy of the Nano. And RMU are just going to throw themselves onto the bot, try and stall this out. Still such a ways for Wartburg to go, though.
Yeah, the one good thing was the heroes that you lost in that fight were Tracer and Soldier, so they'll be back pretty quickly. Everyone's basically there. I mean, this is the final push for Wartburg to keep their hopes alive. Terra Surge and Ant Matrix online, but 3 ults in Robert Morris's back pocket.
Ant Matrix has to be perfect, has to go right now. Terra Surge pulls them in. Okay,
oh my
save
gosh.
the Ant Matrix. That was just a complete wipe. A wash of a fight from RMU. They hardly get anything out. One more.
Yeah, last fight to decide it. Pulse Bomb is thrown into that fight as well. The one thing is Wartburg's going to need to make this quick possible. Because you could get some late support ults coming online for Robert Morris. This has to be fast.
The Ant Matrix here. Oh no, you walk past it. The Ant Matrix is too deep, Drake. Oh, he bit off more than he could chew. And now the overclock is here. A Javelin only stops it for a second. Attack Visor keeps him at bay, but a Sound Barrier is more than enough. Oh, it was so close for Wartburg College, but just tripping at the finish line. They go. RMU instead, 4-0 to be your NECC Nationals Emergence finalist champions.
Whew. That was close. 1 meter is what that map came down to for Wartburg to begin the reverse sweep. But in the final moments, it's like denied from Robert Morris. That overclock once again from Carter Cart, and them being able to get past that Ant Matrix. In my opinion, I still think that Ant Matrix was just a little bit too far forward. If it was back a little bit further, more closer to that hill, you would have been able to get a lot more value out of it. And because it was that far up, they can just walk forward and you can't shoot past it anymore because now the bodies are in your way.
Man, I mean, what a phenomenal showing from Robert Morris University, right? Absolutely fantastic thus far. Thus far in the entirety, right? They come into this bracket, like you said, their first match in the actual bracket play of Nationals. Close. a close cut, right? They go up against Central College White, and it was this close. This close. Only barely did they win out in a map 5, but from there, they've only dropped one map. They go flawless in the grand finals. They felt completely unshakable this entire series.
Yeah, that's one thing I will say is they got one of the strongest players in the Emergence division out very early. So, like, this is nothing against any of the other teams, but if Center College was on the other side, I definitely think that could have easily have been our grand finals with Center versus Robert Morris. That's how good that college is. And for Robert Morris to get them out early, took out like the biggest Titan in that bracket. So now they're able to cruise through, and they had no trouble after that.
And I want to give Wartburg credit where it's due, right? I think those last 2 maps, they showed us the #1 seed that we were expecting. If that was the sort of fervor that we had seen at the start of this series, I think there was a well-earned possibility that we could have had a much longer night in store for us. But those first 2 maps were just such a struggle for Wartburg College. I mean, Antarctic Peninsula, they had one round where that Bastion caught RMU off guard, but when that wasn't usable anymore, the next map and a half were really just pretty one-sided as RMU refused to even blink in the face of danger. Then we get to New Junk City, and it felt like the grand final that we were meant to see, but it was not meant to be. For Esperanza closed us out. An unbelievable cut here for RMU and a well-earned victory.
Couldn't agree with you more. I mean, and you have to say for the side of Wartburg, I know it's probably feeling like really tough right now, especially to lose 4-0 like that, but you made it all the way to the Nationals tournament and made it all the way to the grand finals. So all things considered, very, very successful season in the Emergence division. You got to be feeling good. I know you didn't get the gold, but hold your heads up. That was a great season for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. A great season for Wartburg, but an even better one for RMU, considering that they managed to finish first here in the grand finals of Nationals. And now we're going to go to a quick break. We're not done. When we come back in a moment, we're going to be hearing from one of the players on RMU. So stick around. We'll see you in a sec. Welcome back, folks. I've got a little bit of unfortunate news. We're not going to be able to have the interview for you all today. Unfortunately, the technology is just not cooperating right now, but it happens. You know, online broadcast. We've been doing this long enough. You all know how it goes. Still, congratulations, though, to Robert Morris University Academy Red. They did a phenomenal job today, Red. Ray, you're Ray, not Red. They're Red, you're Ray. I can get it right.
I'm not sure it's red. It's okay.
It's red now? Okay, you're going to rebrand? Oh, whoop. All right, nailed it. But they did a great job today. Either way, and it was a well-deserved win.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, and just so happy with how this season went in general, this whole spring semester, even back in the fall. To conclude here in the Nationals, it's just an accumulation of all the hard work from so many schools to come to the end, and all their hard work is just paying off, and it was beautiful to see. So congratulations to Robert Morris once again.
Yeah, and thank you to Wartburg College and all the other colleges that played here in the Emergent Division and all the other divisions here for NECC Overwatch. That does it for this stream, but NECC is not done for the semester just yet, folks. It is a big weekend ahead of us. You got the LAN going on over in Texas. That action all picks up tomorrow. So you're going to want to come right back here tomorrow. Make sure that you're following here on the Twitch and head over to Twitter as well. But for tonight, that has been it. So we'll see you tomorrow for more NECC. Thank you very much and have a good Thursday night.
Later.